This is the Ramana Maharshi Satsang, a time to listen, reflect, and deeply meditate. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. Welcome. I'm Richard Clarke. I'm not a guru or a teacher. I love this teaching, so want to share it. I'm reading and commenting on the Avadhuta Gita. Continuing this week, I read from chapter 1, verses 35 to 44. First, I'll read them. 35. How can the Supreme Reality be described, since it's neither white nor any other color, has no qualities such as sound, and is beyond voice and mind? I eat, I give, I act. Such statements do not apply to Atman, which is purity, birthless, and imperishable. Where the one Brahman alone is, how can it be said, this is Maya, by which the phenomenal world has been brought into existence, or this is not Maya, this is shadow, or this is not shadow? 38. I am without beginning and without end. Never was I bound. By nature, pure, taintless is myself. This I know for sure. From subtle substance, Mahat, down to formed creation, there is nothing but Brahman. Most clearly do I see this. Where then is division or caste? 40. The absolute void in its opposite, am I everlastingly. 41. Atman is not male or female, nor is it neuter. Neither is it happiness or suffering. How dare ye pervert it? 42. Atman is not purified by the 6 methods of yoga. Absence of the mind makes it no clearer. The teachings of a guru reveal it not. It is all purity in itself, by itself. 43. I am neither bound nor free. I am not separate from Brahman. 44. Neither the doer nor the enjoyer of the fruits of karma am I, the pervaded or the pervaded I am not. Verse 35. How can the Supreme Reality be described, since it is neither white nor any other color, has no qualities such as sound, and is beyond voice and mind? This verse expresses the nature of the Supreme Reality beyond words, called Atman or Brahman in Advaita Vedanta and by Ramana Maharshi. The ultimate reality is beyond human comprehension and description. It transcends all qualities, including color, sound, and other attributes perceivable by the senses or knowable by the mind. Ramana Maharshi taught neti neti, not this, to describe the ineffable, inexpressible nature of Brahman. Brahman cannot really be defined by what it is, but rather by what it is not. What within you is there, but you just can't say what it is. Verse 36, I eat, I give, I act. Such statements do not apply to Atman, which is purity, birthless, and imperishable. In this verse, the Avadhuta tells of the distinction between the eternal Atman and the transient actions and attributes of the individual self, the imaginary ego. Ramana often stressed the importance of self-inquiry to know the true nature of the self and to differentiate the self, Atman, from the identifications with the transient body and mind. Actions, such as eating, giving, or acting, pertain to the realm of the ego and the body, which is subject to birth and death, while the Atman remains eternally pure and unaffected by any activities. Body, mind, and ego were born and will die. Will you? Will existence stop existing? Verse 37, where the one Brahman alone is, how can it be said, this is Maya, by which the phenomenal world has been brought into existence, or this is not Maya, this is shadow, or this is not shadow? This verse challenges the notion of duality and multiplicity and affirms the underlying unity, the non-duality of Brahman. Brahman just exists without either is or it is not. Ramana says that the world of Maya or illusion arises due to ignorance of your true nature as Brahman. By recognizing the non-dual nature of reality, you transcend distinctions between Maya and non-Maya, between shadow and light, and realize the underlying unity of existence. There is only one reality, and that is who you are. Verse 38, I am without beginning and without end. Never was I bound. By nature pure, taintless is myself. This I know for sure. This verse reaffirms the timeless and pure nature of the self, of Atman. Ramana taught that the self is eternal, unbound by the limitation of time, and inherently pure. Time is known by the mind. Are you a mind? The sense of bondage experienced by people rises from misidentification with the body and mind. Bondage, does not rise from the true nature of the self, which remains ever free and untainted by worldly phenomena. Spiritual progress comes through knowledge, not knowledge of the mind, but knowledge of the self. What do you know for sure? Verse 39, from subtle substance, Mahat, down to formed creation, there is nothing but Brahman. Most clearly do I see this. Where then is the division of caste? This verse emphasizes the non-duality of Brahman, the underlying substratum of all existence. Ramana taught that Brahman is the sole reality, manifest in all forms and phenomena. These forms are just appearances in Brahman, which is untouched and unchanged by any of them. The perceived distinctions and divisions like caste, gender, and social roles are ultimately illusory, arising from ignorance of the fundamental unity of Brahman and arising out of ignorance of your true nature. True realization entails transcending these artificial distinctions and recognizing the essential oneness of all beings. All beings, indeed all things, the world and the universe, are all just Brahman, one without a second, only one reality with no alternative. Are you one or many? Verse 40, the absolute void and its opposite, all am I everlastingly. This verse expresses the all-encompassing nature of the self, which transcends all dualities and opposites. Brahman is not this or that, not full or empty. Brahman just is. Ramana spoke of the self as the substratum from which all dualities arise and subside, including concepts such as the dualities of existence and non-existence, and void and form. By recognizing the self as the eternal witness of all phenomena, you transcend the limitations of dualistic thinking and abide in the unchanging reality of Brahman. What within you is untouched by any duality? Verse 41, Atman is not male or female, nor is it neuter. Neither is it happiness or suffering. How dare ye pervert it? This verse emphasizes the attributeless nature of Atman, of Brahman, of yourself, which transcends all gender and emotional distinctions. Ramana taught that the true self is beyond the realm of duality and beyond distinctions, including the dichotomy of man or woman and happiness or suffering. Attempts to attribute qualities or characteristics of the Atman distorts its true nature and perpetuates ignorance. What within you is beyond qualities or attributes. Verse 42, Atman is not purified by the 6 methods of yoga. Absence of the mind makes it no clearer. The teachings of a guru reveal it not. It is all purity in itself, by itself. This verse emphasizes the innate purity and self-effulgence of the Atman, which cannot be attained through external practices or teachings alone. Ramana taught that the realization of the self arises from within, through self-knowledge that comes from the direct experience of your true nature. While spiritual practices like the various yogas and guidance from a guru can be conducive to self-realization, ultimately, Atman is self-luminous and eternally pure. You can't think it, you can only know it through direct experience. What within you has always been pure, untouched, unsullied. Verse 43, I am neither bound nor free. I am not separate from Brahman. This verse negates the concepts of bondage and liberation, emphasizing the eternal freedom and unity of the self with Brahman. Brahman is without attributes, even those like bound or free. Ramana taught that the sense of bondage arises from the mistaken identification with the transient body and mind, and that true liberation lies in realizing your inherent unity with Brahman, which is beyond all limitations and distinctions. What within you is beyond all limitations. Verse 44, neither the doer nor the enjoyer of the fruits of karma am I, the pervader or the pervaded I am not. This verse negates the notion of agency and ownership, emphasizing the impersonal nature of the self. Ramana taught that the individual ego, identified as the doer and enjoyer, is a product of ignorance, misidentification, and illusion. By realizing the self as the always knowing consciousness, you transcend the sense of agency and ownership, recognizing oneself as the eternal observer, unaffected by the actions and experiences of the transient world. You are Brahman. The world is Brahman. Actions unfold in Brahman. The key is to know that you are not the body, karma, and agency are for the body and not for you. Not the body, you are free from any attributes or characteristics of the body. what of the body is for you. The verses from the Avadhuta Gita, as viewed through the perspective of Ramana Maharshi, emphasize the ineffable, indescribable nature of the Supreme Reality, which is beyond all attributes and qualities. They assert the eternal purity and unity of the self, Atman, with Brahman. Through negation of duality, recognition of the attributeless nature of the self, and transcendence of egoic identification, the verses guide you towards the direct realization of the eternal truth of non-duality and the inherent freedom of the self. So inquire, know yourself, and be always free and at peace. And now a video from Nome, Without Difference.
Reality is undifferentiated. There is no distinction between being and consciousness and bliss. Searching inwardly, inquire to know your existence and determine if it is individualized, that being the prime difference. Differences appear according to the definition supposed for the individual. Individuality itself being the first definition. So if the misidentification or definition is one of being an embodied individual, for example, then an external world is assumed to exist. If, however, you are not embodied, then what is it that is referred to as the world, or the objective sphere of experience? If you are not the body, what difference could there be between the universe and yourself? Similarly, if through imagination limitations are further superimposed upon the individual self, then that individualized self is considered limited or bound, and the Absolute is something distinct therefrom of an unlimited nature. If such limitations are not falsely attributed to yourself, where is the distinction between the Absolute, the Supreme, and yourself? Who is it that conceives of differences? You and the world, you and God, you and others, etc. The common ingredient is you. Yet who are you? Can you actually have an existence apart from that existence? Can there really be a knowing mind distinct from the infinite consciousness? Is bliss or happiness ever other than one's own nature? If you are endowed with a form, there is differentiation of forms everywhere. Does your being have a form? If not, what then is all this difference? If you are individualized, then there is all this. If individuality is not true regarding your existence, that is, if the self is egoless, what becomes of all this? Wise sages declare that all this is most certainly Brahman. Do you understand? If you do, then Brahman alone is. And Brahman is perfect. The imperfect individual is merely imagined. If we seek for whom such imagination appears, it vanishes. For it is in the very nature of illusion to be rootless. In reality, none of the different kinds of differences exist. Who are you? In the Shastras, 3 kinds of differences are mentioned. Differences between things of completely different nature, differences between things of the same nature, and there being one thing with internal differences. It is a description of one's view of Jagat Jivapara, the universe, the individual, and the supreme. None of the different kinds of differences actually exist. All such conception depends on the first difference. If the first difference exists, then there is all these others. If the first difference has not yet occurred, then all this is only Brahman, and the self is only Brahman. The first difference is the I notion, as declared by the Maharshi. Search for the root of the I notion, or search for the validity of the idea or the supposition of being an individual. In and for the eyeless self, there is no difference ever. Realize this and remain undisturbed.
Now we'll take a few minutes and inquire. You exist. Notice that you exist, and you know that you exist. Now inquire. Investigate within yourself. All these separate objects are known by one awareness. Who or what is that unchanging awareness? You are always. How could you be anything that is always changing, like a body or mind or ego? The roles and actions of the ego keep changing. What is unchanging within you? Can you see that all this is all one? Who am I? What is the nature of my existence? All right. Close with our chant. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace. All right. Comments, discussions, enlightening remarks. Lift us up. Anyway, good to be together again, and we'll see you next week. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
Just bliss.
Yes.